Hello, Star Wars fans. Welcome to episode 12 of Journey into Legends. Today we are going to be talking about Dark Force Rising by Timothy Zahn. Dark Force Rising was released in 1992 and is the second installment in the iconic Thrawn trilogy. As you guys know, if you've seen my previous review, I absolutely loved Heir to the Empire, so I'm super excited to jump back into the Thrawn trilogy. Without further ado, let's read and review. Alright, so I just flew through Dark Force Rising, and I absolutely loved it, and I thought that it fixed quite a few of the issues I had with Heir to the Empire. Skip to the timestamp on screen to avoid spoilers. Let's start with my positives. Like I said, this book fixed a few of my problems with Heir to the Empire. Firstly, Thrawn was not super smart to the point of absurdity like he occasionally could be in Heir to the Empire. Not only was he not in the loop about everything, but he actively had no idea what was going on with a few of the characters, and it wasn't even to the detriment of his character or his intelligence, but it made him a real, flawed character despite his genius. Secondly, Jaruus C'baoth was a great character this time around. Luke finally reached Jomark, and we truly got to see what kind of man C'baoth is. I ended up really enjoying his character by the end of this plotline, and now that he's gotten some interaction with the protagonists, I thought he was an awesome villain. Finally, Leia had something to do this time. In fact, she got an entire plotline to herself, and I really enjoyed it. One of my biggest issues with Revenge of the Sith was its treatment of Padme and how she simply became a pregnant plot device because George didn't have anything else for her to do. Zahn gave Leia a really intriguing and entertaining storyline, though it kind of went nowhere. But I'm sure they'll pick up this thread in the next book. Other things that I really enjoyed, of course, were the characters and the plot, just like I said last book. If you want to hear my thoughts about that, go watch that review. The plot of this book was excellent. It was a lot more complex and multifaceted than Heir to the Empire, and I really enjoyed the politics and the details of it all. Now on to my negatives, which are quite few and far between. Thrawn was less interesting this time around. Like I said earlier, he's not as overpowered as he could be in Heir to the Empire, but I felt that he was a lot less involved in the plot of this book, and I found myself losing interest whenever the scene switched from a Leia, Luke, or Han scene to a Thrawn scene. Now, I'm not saying that he's a bad villain at all, but he was definitely more interesting in the previous book. Next, this book kind of suffers from the middle film or middle book syndrome. Basically, what this means is that this book spends more time expanding on the previous book and setting up the next book instead of focusing on itself. Now, this is necessary in a 3-book story, but a lot of the plot lines in this book get no satisfying resolution. The Han and Lando storyline gets a resolution that only sets up the next book. The Leia storyline sets up the next book, and the Luke storyline gets interrupted by the Mara and Card storyline, most likely to get resumed in the next book. These negatives are seriously more nitpicks than actual complaints, but I had to talk about something. So those are my pros and cons about this book. Overall, I really enjoyed it. Comparing it to the Heir to the Empire, I probably prefer Heir to the Empire by a thin margin, just because I had a lot more fun with that book. With all that said and done, I've decided to give this book a 96%, putting it 1% lower than Heir to the Empire. So that's all I have for you guys today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for my Last Command review. See ya.